There are films you watch, and there are films that happen to you. Most films you watch, you sit down, you follow the story, you feel things, you move on. Life continues. You make tea, you check your phone. The film fades into the background of everything else you've seen. And then there are the other ones. The ones that don't ask for your attention. They take it. Slowly, quietly, without warning. Incendies is one of those films. If this is your first time here, welcome. This is Plot Explained, and we don't just go over films here, we go through them. Every layer, every hidden detail, every moment that seems small until you realize it was carrying everything. If that sounds like your kind of thing, hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Now, let's talk about Incendies. I'm not going to stand here and tell you this is an easy watch. It isn't. There are stretches of this film, long stretches, where patience is the only thing keeping you in your seat. And I'll be real with you, when I first watched it, I almost didn't make it through. Not because it's bad, because it's slow. Deliberately, almost punishingly slow. Like it's testing you. Like it's asking, do you actually want to know where this is going? Because once you find out, there's no going back. The thing about Incendies that I've never been able to shake, years after watching it still, is that the ending doesn't shock you the way a twist shocks you. It doesn't feel like a trick. It doesn't feel like the film outsmarted you. It feels like the ground opened up underneath you. Like something you always knew about the world, but could never put into words, just got put into words. So that's what we're doing today. We're walking through this film together. Not over it, not around it, through it. Every layer, every detail Villeneuve buried in plain sight. Every moment that seems slow until you realize it wasn't slow at all. It was loading. And by the end of this video, if you've seen Incendies, you're going to feel that silence all over again. And if you haven't seen it yet, I'm sorry for what's coming. Oh, and before we go further, if you appreciate someone actually going deep on cinema instead of just recapping the plot, a like on this video genuinely helps more than you think. It tells the algorithm this conversation is worth having. Now, let's go. The film opens in an orphanage. And before a single word of dialogue, before you know anyone's name, before you understand where you are or what any of this means, Denis Villeneuve does something that in retrospect is one of the most quietly devastating things I have ever seen a director do. He shows you a boy, just a boy, sitting among other children, getting his head shaved, looking directly into the camera with eyes that have already seen too much. And playing over this image, over these children, over this boy, is Radiohead. Tom York's voice, delicate, almost gentle, completely at odds with what you're seeing. And you feel it immediately, something is wrong here. Something about this image is not right, but you can't name it yet. Villeneuve knows you can't. That's exactly why he put it first. But here's the detail that matters. The detail that seems like nothing the first time you see it. The camera drifts down to the boy's ankle. 3 dots, tattooed there. You don't know why. You don't know what they mean. You file it away somewhere in the back of your mind and the film moves on. But those 3 dots are everything. That boy is going to become the most important person in this entire film, and you won't understand it for another 2 hours. The story proper begins in Canada, present day. A notary's office. 2 twins, Jane and Simon, sitting across from their mother's former employer, listening to her will being read. Their mother, Nawal Marwan, has just died, and her final wishes are strange. She wants 2 letters delivered, one to a father the twins believed was dead, one to a brother they never knew existed. And she refuses to be buried, refuses a headstone, refuses her name marked anywhere, until those letters reach the people they're meant for. She will not rest until the truth is found. Now at this point, you're probably doing what I did. You're thinking, okay, Mystery setup, twin siblings uncovering their mother's hidden past. I know this structure. I've seen this before. And that comfortable familiarity is exactly what Villeneuve is counting on. Because what comes next is not what you're expecting. It is never what you're expecting. To understand where this film is going, you have to understand where Nawal came from. And Villeneuve tells us in fragments, in flashbacks that cut between past and present like wounds that keep reopening. Nawal was young once, in love. She fell for a refugee, a man from a different religion, a different world, in a country already tearing itself apart. Her family found out. They killed him. And Nawal, pregnant, 17 years old, completely alone, was sent away, to give birth in secret, to a child who would be taken from her before she could hold him long enough to memorize his face. But before they took him, she made sure of one thing: 3 dots, tattooed on his ankle, so that wherever life took him, whatever happened, however many years passed, she would know him. She searched for him, for years, across a country consuming itself in civil war. She carried his name like something she refused to let the world take from her. And while searching, she ended up at a university in Daresh. And then the war came to the university too. And Nawal, still looking, still carrying that photograph, found herself on a bus. A bus full of ordinary people, going somewhere, living their lives. And Christian nationalist militia stopped the bus. And they boarded it. And they checked who was Muslim. And they killed them. Right there, in front of everyone. Nawal, a Christian, survived. Not because she was saved, because she was the wrong religion to be murdered that day. She stood beside that burning bus, and the camera just stayed on her face. No music, no dialogue, just her face, and the fire, and the complete destruction of any remaining belief she had that the world makes sense. This is the moment the film stops being a mystery and becomes something else entirely, because you realize Nawal isn't just a woman with secrets. She is a woman who has survived things that should have broken her completely, and somehow didn't, and somehow did, both at the same time. After the bus, something changes in Nawal. She joins the Muslim fighters. She becomes part of the war she was trying to survive. She assassinates a nationalist leader. A woman who started this story with nothing but a photograph and a promise ends up pulling a trigger. War does that. It takes the most human impulses, love, grief, the need to find someone, and turns them into something unrecognizable. And then she is captured and taken to a prison called Kfar Riyat. And in that prison, there is a man. The prisoners call him Abu Tariq. He is the torturer. I want to be careful about how I say what happens next, not to protect you from it, but because the film itself is restrained. Villeneuve never shows you everything. He shows you just enough to understand the full weight of what Nawal endures. Abu Tariq commits acts against Nawal that strip away everything a human being should be able to call their own. The most private violation imaginable, repeatedly, over a long period of time. And in that prison, in those conditions, Nawal becomes pregnant, and she gives birth to twins, Jean and Simon. The same 2 people sitting in that notary's office in Canada at the beginning of this film, born in a prison, from a father who was their mother's torturer, and they never knew. But here's the thing about Nawal in that prison that I keep coming back to. The detail that, even knowing everything else, even knowing all of it, is the one that gets me every single time. She sings, every day, in her cell. Not as performance, not as defiance, as the only thread left connecting who she was before all of this to whoever she was becoming inside it. The other prisoners hear her through the walls. They hold on too. They call her the woman who sings. There is a kind of courage in that detail that most films spend their entire runtime trying to manufacture and never quite reach. Villeneuve gets there in 3 words. The woman who sings. Meanwhile, in the present, Jean and Simon are getting closer. They track down a man named Shamsuddin, a warlord, the man who destroyed the orphanage where Nawal had placed her firstborn son. And Shamsuddin tells them something that begins to collapse every assumption they've been carrying. When the orphanage was destroyed, the children weren't all killed. Some of them were converted, turned into child soldiers, including Nawal's son, Nihad. The little boy from the opening scene, the one with the 3 dots on his ankle. Nihad became a child soldier, then a sniper, searching for his mother in the only way war had taught him to search for anything, with a weapon in his hands. And then he was captured by the nationalist side, and they did to him what war does to people who were already broken before war found them. They turned him. Again. They trained him to be a torturer, and they sent him to a prison called Kfar Riyat, where he took a new name, Abu Tariq. The child Nawal spent her entire life searching for was the man in that prison. He didn't know. She didn't know. Not then. Now this is the scene that the entire movie was building up to when Simon turns to Jean, and he says something that on the surface sounds like nothing. A simple math question. Can 1 + 1 make 1? He's working it out loud, saying it the way you say something when your brain refuses to accept what your logic is telling you. 1 father, 1 brother, 1 + 1, 2 people. And Jean gasps. Not a dramatic gasp, not a movie gasp. The kind of sound that comes out of a person when something hits them so hard and so deep that their body reacts before their mind can stop it. A sharp intake of breath that people who have seen this film describe as haunting them long after everything else fades. Because in that gasp is everything. The father they were looking for is the same man as the brother they were looking for. Both letters, one person. The man who was in that prison with their mother was her own son. Then we see how Nawal found out about this whole thing. The war ended. The world moved on the way it always does, pretending it can. Nihad was given a new life in Canada, a new name, a quiet existence. Nawal was given a new life in Canada too. She raised Jean and Simon. She built something from the wreckage. She carried everything she'd survived and kept it locked inside her, and she loved her children with everything she had left. And then, one ordinary day, she went swimming. A public pool in Montreal. She paused in the water to catch her breath, and she looked up. And she saw a man standing at the edge of the pool, and on his ankle were 3 dots. The same 3 dots she had placed on her son the day he was born, the mark she had memorized, the mark she had been searching for across decades of war and grief and survival. She got out of the water. She approached him. He didn't recognize her. She looked at his face, and she knew. From the prison, the son she never stopped looking for, and the man from that prison were the same person, at the same time. Both. She didn't confront him. She didn't scream. She didn't collapse. She walked to a chair by the pool, and she sat down. And something inside her went very, very quiet. She stopped speaking after that, until she died. Because what words exist for that? What do you say when the truth of your life is something the human mind simply was not built to hold? You write 2 letters, one to the father, one to the son, both addressed to the same man. And here is where Villeneuve does something that I think is quietly the most devastating detail in this entire film. The letter to the father, the letter full of everything she felt about what was done to her in that prison, she signs it. Number 72. Her prisoner number. Not her name. Not Nawal Marwan. Not the woman who loved fiercely. Not the woman who searched for decades. Not the woman who sang to stay herself. The number they gave her. The only identity that prison tried to leave her with. And the letter to the son tells him she is his mother. It tells him she loves him, exactly as much as she did the day he was born. 2 letters, same man, one carrying everything a survivor feels, one carrying everything a mother feels. Both true, at the same time. And Jean and Simon find him, living quietly in Canada, working as a janitor, cleaning buses. No idea that the woman from that prison was his own mother. No idea that the twins standing in front of him are simultaneously his children and his siblings. They hand him the envelope. They don't stay to watch him read it. They walk away. And the last image of this man, this person who was once a child with 3 dots on his ankle, then a soldier, then something monstrous, then a janitor cleaning buses in Canada, is him standing alone beside his mother's grave. Just standing there, holding everything. There is a reason this film is called Incendies. Fires. Not one fire, not a single burning moment. Fires, plural, ongoing, the kind that don't go out. They just find new things to consume. The fire in Nawal's village when she was young, the bus burning by the road, the orphanage destroyed, the slow, invisible fire of a secret carried for decades, the fire that finally, goes quiet in a notary's office in Canada when 2 young people read letters their mother could never speak aloud. Villeneuve is saying something specific with that title. Trauma doesn't end. It burns. It moves from one person to the next, one generation to the next, finding new fuel, consuming everything it touches. Jean and Simon didn't just uncover their mother's past. They are their mother's past. Every part of who they are is the product of everything that happened to Nawal. The fire reached them before they were even born, and the only way to stop it is to name it. That's what the letters are, not closure, not forgiveness as a gift to him, just a name put to the fire, so it knows what it is, so it can stop living in silence. Remember Jean's lecture at the beginning, the Collat's conjecture, the mathematical theory that says, no matter how chaotic a sequence becomes, no matter how random and impossible to predict, it always collapses back down to 1. Always. One single point, no matter how far it travels. Incendies is the Collat's conjecture. Every storyline, every timeline, every act of love and violence across decades of war and survival and searching collapsed back down to 1. One man, one envelope, one grave, one truth that Nawal refused to let die with her. Denis Villeneuve went on to make Prisoners, Sicario, Arrival, Dune. Films the whole world knows. Films that made him one of the greatest directors working today. But Incendies is where you see it first. Not the spectacle, not the scale, not the visual grandeur. The willingness to look at the most unbearable things human beings do to each other and refuse to look away. And underneath all of it, underneath all that horror, to find something that looks almost like love, almost like survival, almost like the stubborn, irrational, impossible human insistence that some things are worth holding on to, even when the world has taken everything else. If you've seen Incendies, I hope this gave words to something you've been carrying around. And if you haven't seen it yet, watch it. Be patient with it. Push through the slow parts. You'll know why when it's over. If this video made you feel something, hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel more than you know. And if you want more cinema that actually means something, subscribe and hit the bell. We're just getting started. You were watching Plot Explained. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.